Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. My name's Tracy and I'm going to show you how to make a phone sock. Now this is the first one I've made, and I made it with the Poundland yarn, which is a DK. Now I also made this one with the Glitz yarn from King Cole. Also a DK weight, but this is quite a bit thicker. I edged them in the tinsel yarn, which you've probably seen on my channel. I love it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, because they're quite jazzy yarns, I do like the way they pull, especially this one with the slanted stripes. But it would be very difficult to show you with this yarn. So I'm going to show you with a more plain yarn. Now, this is also a Glitz. This is the baby Glitz that I made my sparkly scarf with. So it's called silver, but it's more of a grey to me. And I'm going to show you with this, and I'm going to edge it with the white tinsel yarn because I think it will show up easier. I'm also going to review the crochet hooks that I bought the other day and came in my happy mail. So I shall use a 3.5 because this, although they're all DK, some come up thicker than others, and this is quite a thin yarn. So this is just an oddball that I had left over from making my scarf, but if I do run out, I've got loads of it. So I've got a phone here. As you can see, it's broken, but it's a good enough one to show you. How I do that is I will crochet a foundation chain that just meets in the middle and goes a little way further, and then that will give me the right width. So I'll do a slip knot. Now I do have a tutorial on how to do a slip knot and magic loop, and the slip knot the way I was taught, but I don't do it like that anymore. But if you need to watch that, then please familiarise yourself with that. If you want to familiarise yourself with the stitches that I'm using today as well as the chain, I'm going to be using the half treble, which is a UK term. It's a half double in the US, and I'm going to use a single crochet US, which is a double crochet, excuse me, in the UK. So interestingly, this is the third sock that I've made, and the other one was even thicker, but each of them, because they had the corresponding crochet hook, took 30 chain. So I'm going to crochet 30 chain, and then just to make sure, I'm going to put it around and see if it's the right length. So to do a chain, we yarn over and pull it through the loop on our hook. Yarn over and pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Once again, yarn over, pull through. So I'm going to pause this video while I do the rest of the 30 chain. Okay, so I have 30 chain, and I place my phone in and just make sure that they do meet and they overlap slightly, so that will be perfect width. That's how I measure it. And then once I just carry on, and I usually carry on with this colour until my sock measures this length, and then the edging just makes it that little bit more so it actually fits quite well. So the first row, I usually make my foundation row out of double crochet UK terms or single crochet in the US. Now I don't make this into a ring yet. I have done in the past. Sorry, I had an interruption. So my foundation, I don't make into a ring now. I have done sometimes, but on occasion it can twist. So I will join it into a ring after the end of this row. So this is the loop on our hook, which doesn't count. That's our first chain, and this is our second chain from the hook here. So we insert our hook into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we have 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through both. And we're going to do that all the way along. So we go into the next one, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Into the next chain along, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now that is a single crochet in the US or a double crochet in the UK. And I'm going to do that in every stitch until the end. So I'm going to pause the video and I will meet you back at the start. Sorry, the end. Start. Okay, so I am now at my very last stitch, and this is where I'm going to make it into a ring. So I'm using the wrong side. I'll stretch it out, turn it in on itself, and go into my very first stitch. I can't see what I'm doing, and move the tail out of the way, and I'll do a slip stitch. And to do that, it's yarn over and pull through both loops. Now we have it in a ring. And it does look a little confusing at the moment because this is not attached, but don't worry, that will disappear when we join our work, that little gap. So don't worry about that, there won't be a gap. So if it bothers you that you're not going to know where your start and your end is, then by all means pop a stitch marker into here. But I'm quite used to this, so I won't be doing that. So I'll just do one chain to turn. Now, I will show you how I keep my edge more or less straight, because otherwise you'll find it will slant upwards. So this time I'm going to go into my very next stitch with my half treble or my half double in US. Half treble is a UK term, so it's yarn over into the first stitch, which doesn't look very clear, I'm afraid. Yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. Again into the next stitch, that's yarn over, into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. We have 3, yarn over, pull through all 3. Yarn over, into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Now this is one of my favourite stitches because it's not, I'm just going to pull out some yarn, it doesn't leave like a long stitch, so there are no gaps. It's a nice sort of small stitch, but at the same time it grows relatively quickly. So yarn over, into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. I'm going to do that in every stitch until the end. So if you I'm going to pause the video now and I will meet you when I get back to this stitch. Okay, so I've now made it round. I'm going to do my last stitch, and now I'm at my start. So I'm going to go into my first stitch and do a slip stitch to join. So now you can see it started to look a little bit, if you can imagine if that was joined to there, that would be, there would be no gap at all. So how I make it so that my edges along here when it's joined do not slant, or slant as little as possible, is by this round I'm going to go into that same stitch that I have just slip stitched into and make a stitch, and then go into the next one. So on my next round I won't do that, I will go into the next stitch along. You do exactly the same amount of stitches, but you just start in a different place. So one round I'll start in the same stitch that I've slip stitched. The next round I will just start in the following, and you alternate it, and that way just keep a count of your stitches, that make sure you've always got the same amount, and it does keep your edges a lot straighter. When you're using yarn like this, it doesn't really matter, you can't see it. But on a plain yarn, you'll see the slant, and some beginners really, when you're beginning, people don't often tell you how to avoid it, and it does really bug you after a while. So I always think start as you mean to go on. Just because you're a beginner doesn't mean that you can't grasp starting in a different stitch. with each round. So I always think, well, you don't really need to be an advanced crocheter to know little tricks. So we'll start as we mean to go on. But yep, I'm just going to go in every single stitch all the way along until I get to the end. And pull out some yarn. I'm nearly there because I've been chatting, but I'm going to pause the video and I will see you when I get to the start. Okay, so I'm now back at the start. So I'm going to go into my first stitch, make sure I go into both and do a slip stitch into that stitch there. One chain, and instead of going into the same stitch this time, I'm going to go into the next stitch along and start there. And that helps to stop the slanting. And just do one in each stitch and carry on. Carry on doing exactly that until this measures the whole length of your phone. Simple as that. So I'm going to pause the video and I will see you when this measures the length of my phone. Hi everyone, I'm back, and so I've almost done. I've got to the last couple of stitches and I'll show you once I make my little slip knot there, slip stitch rather. Oh, didn't quite go according to plan, did it? Made a mess of that. So last stitch and slip stitch into my last stitch, and I'm going to end off, leave a very long tail. I'll show you why in a minute. I can get it through. Now, if I show you the edge, this is the edge, and at first I thought I would show you by leaving it. I don't know if you can see, it's diagonal, and then as it's not perfect, but it's a straighter edge. Can you see that? It's a bit difficult to see, but that is a definite slant, whereas that is far straighter, and you can't really see it. It's so much better. So what I do now is turn it into the other way, so it's inside out, and pull that long tail through, and I'm going to join it. Now it does look too thin, but I can assure you it's not. It goes in, look, it's perfectly fine, and it's the whole length of the phone. And so it does look thin when it's out of it though. So now I'm going to put that like this, so that that's my edge and that's in the corner, and I'm going to secure it together by going through each side like that into the next stitch, through both. So I'm through 4 loops, the 2 loops of that stitch and 2 loops of that, come through. You can do it like that, it's easier than trying to slip stitch, but it is with this yarn anyway. And you just join in both together. So you're going through each top of each stitch. It doesn't matter whether you join it this end or at the other end. Oh, I thought I was going to lose my light then. Looked like we were going to have a power cut. I thought that would be all I need at this stage of the game. So through both, all the way along, joining it together. Last couple of stitches. And end off. Now, I'm going to cut that because it's too long, but I will sew that end in. Turn it back into the other way. Make sure your corners are out. And so we've got now a pouch. And there's our first. You can sew that together if you want, but there really is not much of a need to do that, because now we take our tinsel yarn. I'm just going to pull some out. Now it doesn't look that thick, but it is classed as chunky. And I'm going to use a larger hook for this. I have been using larger than this. This one's a 5mm. So you can join it at whatever point you wish. I'm going to, that's my corner. I'm going to join it at this edge. And I'll leave fairly long tail. It's ever so easy actually. If I do one chain with both ends and then I drop the tail. And again I will be doing the same stitch. It's easy to go through all three. I've not used these crochet hooks before though. Just go in each stitch. Long. Oops, I dropped it. If you can see it. Much easier to crochet with than I imagined it would be. That's not gone through the stitch though. It's because I've met up with my tail and it threw me a little bit. See, all the way along, and I did 2 rows with my others. Ever so easy. Just go in each one, and then you can just go straight over the other tail, and you won't notice that join at all. Just keep going, and then oh, it didn't go into the stitch. There we are, all the way along, right to the end. I'm going to pause the video and I will meet you back at the start. Okay, so I'm more or less back. You can see where you're going into. A couple more stitches, there's one. Sorry if I hit the camera. It's not so easy when you're at that angle. Slip stitch into the start. Chain to turn, and then just go into those stitches. You can't see where you're going into, but you can feel. And if you've gone into the wrong part of the stitch, it's really not going to show, because all you're going to see is the tinsel. And I do another row all the way round, give it a thicker. Sometimes it kind of folds in on itself, like it, it goes in. Just need to pull out the strands a little bit because they get a little bit tucked up. But it's quite easy to crochet with because, let's pull some yarn out. Any mistakes, it is actually quite forgiving. You can see whether you've made a mistake or not. As long as you can feel you're going through a proper stitch or part of it, it looks good. Go all the way around again. And you can do this as wide as you want. You can do 1, 2, 3 rows, just doesn't matter. I think 2's perfect. That's 2. That's what 2 looks like. And just keep going until we've gone all the way around. And then I'll sort of end off in the usual way, leave a nice long tail and just sew it in, just weaving it in and out with a darning needle. And the same with your ends, just turn it inside out and weave in your ends. But this is the same half double, half treble in the UK, half double in the US. Same stitch, makes it nice and bushy. And I'm sorry if you can hear Gary blowing his nose, sounding like an elephant. Trumpeting away. That's where I didn't go into the whole stitch. I think we're now back at the start, so we just slip stitch into there. That's the hardest part, slip stitching. So I'll leave a nice long tail and cut it. end off, and then with the darning needle I just weave it in and out of this fluffy edge because you're not really going to see it. Pop the phone in, nice broke phone. There we go. Perfect. Nice little end. See, that's kind of cute. I love this white tinsel yarn. But you can go round again, make a bigger... Weaving this in does actually make it a little bit more bushy than it would normally be. But that's basically it. Weave in your ends and there's your phone sock. And obviously you can use whichever yarn you want. This doesn't look particularly spectacular on camera, but it is lovely glitzy yarn. And the kind of green sparkle in this is actually the same green that's in here. So it does look nicer than it does on camera because it's really not showing the sparkle. There's nothing I can do to make it sparkle. I think the light in here is too dingy. But that's it. That's basically the phone sock. And so far so good with the crochet hooks. So thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, please pop your little digit on the subscribe button. If you set that to notification bell to all, then you'll receive updates when there's new videos, tutorials, live chats, yarn reviews, shopping videos. The list is endless. So thanks very much for joining me. Bye bye for now.